All coincidences with real Russian aggressors are not accidental. Everyone who recognizes himself or his fellow accomplice, or finds a coincidence with real military events on a foreign, for Putin's war criminals, Ukrainian land, as well as a coincidence with the experienced misadventures that pursued him or his colleagues on the territory of an independent European state of Ukraine, be sure to declare it. And, best of all, immediately to the International Tribunal in The Hague. To SAW BUCHA and DIE. Frazzled out of this. Since the 25th of January, it's been freezing for a whole month now. First, a week on the train with frost on the windows inside the carriages, while units of the 64th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Combined Arms Army of the Eastern District of the RF Armed Forces were dragged from the Khabarovsk territory to the Allied Resolve military exercises in Belarus. Then, from February 2nd, and it all in a large army tent. 3 weeks of February in a fucking army tent for 3 squads, that is, for 36 people, in which 2 useless smoking stoves. Native, our stoves, not even Chinese ones. The Chinese ones would have warmed us at least a little, but those are welded from some kind of foil, even with holes the size of a finger along the seams. I wonder what a recoil these stoves, Shoigu, and the generals have earned. The tent is shit too. Surely, an Afghanistan passed, and then 2 more Chechen ones. A darned and over-darned, blown by all the winds, like an emergency wooden 2-story building, in his native Pereyaslawka, in which Demid Drozdov was born and grew up to the draft. His battalion tactical group, abbreviated as BTG, was located in a pine forest during the exercises, 2 kilometers from the district center of Choyniki, Gomel region, Republic of Belarus. For 3 whole weeks now, Demid Drozdov has been constantly freezing and, hourly, cursing these damned winter exercises. Thank God, 2 days ago, the exercises finally ended. Ended, despite the fact that there were no exercises, as there should be. And this was just the most moronic thing, according to the soldier. Allied Resolve, bullshit. Their 64th Motorized Rifle Brigade, 7,000 kilometers away, was fucking moved from the Khabarovsk territory to the Union State of Belarus. Moreover, along with them, a lot of units from many other federal districts were brought to the exercises, which were not. On the other side of Choyniki, there was a regiment of the Cheta National Guard. On the only outing for 10 days of exercises from February 10th to 20, going to the shooting range, Marines from Murmansk, Kadyrov's men, and some other specialists from Kaliningrad, with their noses turned up, practiced a tactical offensive together with them. Demid's closest comrade, the shooter-gunner from their beater Ivan Pogorlov, called these asshole Starship troopers for their cool equipment and contemptuous attitude towards all other troops. Of course, except for the Kadyrovites. In the evening, on the festive day of February 23rd, having bought a bottle of vodka at exorbitant prices from a sly tanker, Anton Pestryakov from his own BTG, the driver of the BTR-80, Demid Drozdov opened up to his comrades from his crew, the commander, Buryat Gurjim Barayev and Vanka Pogorlov. And personally, I don't mind staying here for good. Their women here are so neat. One of the 2 Belarusian women in a raspberry skirt, in an embroidered shirt, and with a wreath on their heads, who were with the mayor of Choyniki, and with bread and salt, met the train with Russian soldiers on the evening of February 2nd. 19-year-old Demid Drozdov couldn't get her out of his head for about 3 weeks. And they don't drink. And not such whores, I guess, like ours. Ivan agreed with the driver, as he received a letter from his girlfriend even before the exercises. She wrote to Pogorlov that she had found another guy and was going to leave with him from their dense province to the capital of the region, Khabarovsk. If we will stay in Belarus forever, then I will sign a contract and marry some local Alessia. In any case, I will never return to my Khabarovsk asshole region. So let's drink for our bright future. Summed up his plans for life with a suitable toast, and Demid stretched out to hit glasses with drinking companions. For your Alessia, a shooter named Pogorlov laughed. Wait a minute, guys, the captain says we could go to Ukraine. And there may be even more beautiful meat, which we will find for us, said tipsy crew commander Gurjim Barayev with a carnivorous smile. So, I order my crew to stock up on condoms. Two of his subordinates laughed and saluted him. Yes, sir. To stock up on condoms. Well, then, let's go to Kyiv. Fuck Ukrainian women. All three fighters, considered, according to various ratings, the second most powerful army on the planet, dreamily lit a cigarette. No, boys, I doubt that we will now attack Kokloma. Most likely, we were slowed down here, after the exercises, in order to finally get their hands on this cunning-ass Bulbash Lukashenko. In my opinion, it's more logical. First, Putin will announce Lukashenko as the governor of the Minsk province of the Russian Federation, and only then will it be possible to bend coke-holes. Puffing on cigarette smoke, the conscript geopolitician Dmitry Drozdov assured his friends. However, he was wrong. On February 24, 2022, at exactly 2 o'clock in the morning, the entire personnel of the 64th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade were alerted. A short briefing, a legend about we got lost in the exercises, and, after only 45 minutes, mech driver Demid, foreman Barayev, shooter Pogorlov, and another 7 soldiers in the troop compartment of an armored personnel carrier, as part of a mechanized column, moved towards the state border of Ukraine. At the southwestern exit from Choyniki, their BTG was led by a platoon of the Russian Guard on the Tigers. Unlike the Khabarovsk motorized riflemen soldiers, during all the exercises they lived in warmth and comfort, in the buildings of the local pioneer camp. Shivering from the cold in a car that had not yet warmed up, Dmitry Drozdov once again envied Putin's National Guardsmen, who received much more and were better supplied than the army. That's where it will be necessary to go immediately after military service. Just before the Ukrainian border, their column was joined by 2 BTGs, the same motorized riflemen from the 64th Khabarovsk Brigade, a Kadyrov battalion, several tankers with fuel and separate guards, and some other units of the ground forces of the Army of the Russian Federation. At 4:15 in the morning, without any incident, they crossed the border. Prekordny pissed, Kornobil. Dmitry read aloud the sign on the roadside pole. Well, everything is as expected. The Ukrainian borderers have fled. I put the box of Stolichnaya, that it will be the same, right up to their own fucking maiden, till Kyiv we will reach, and hell no one will roar against us. Triumphantly self-confident, almost shouting, in the cramped space of an armored personnel carrier, said the crew commander Barayev. Vanka Pogorlov, who was sitting behind the driver on the trigger of a large caliber KPVT, suggested that in Ukraine, just like in Belarus, they would be greeted with bread and salt. It would be nice, also with vodka, to get off a hangover. This time, quietly mumbling in response, the foreman, who, after the commander had just yelled about reaching the Kyiv maiden, unexpectedly sharply and severely got a headache. An hour and a half later, descending from a sloping hill on the Ukrainian highway, conscript Dmitry Drozdov, steering his beater, saw a column of Russian troops stretched out in front of him for a good 1.5 kilometers. Just as many, if not more, followed behind his combat vehicle. Just at that moment, right above them, at least 20 military transport Mi-17s flew by, accompanied by several attack Ka-52 alligators. Indeed, who would dare to resist such a force? Just fucking try, coke-holes. We will tear them all apart. The final destination was already known, and inspired by the multi-kilometer river of trunks and steel that appeared before his eyes, the driver Drozdov, not doubting a quick and easy victory over the Ukrainians, joked loudly. Immediately after Kyiv, we will rush to Berlin, for the German women. Others riding in the airborne squad, the Russian soldiers liberators, laughing in unison, agreed with the proposed option, the continuation of the military campaign. Someone mentioned that, with much more willingness, he would have fucked a little young polka. Moreover, this is just on the way to Germany. A couple more hours later, at about 9 in the morning, 2 battalion tactical groups of the 64th Khabarovsk Brigade, led by half a dozen Tigers and 4 more buses with Rose Guards, drove into a small but neat Ukrainian town, Bucha, Kyiv region. At 2 opposite ends of the Kyiv suburb, 2 apocalyptic pillars of black smoke were already rising. At one of the intersections, a BTG in which Dmitry Drozdov was moving turned towards the right conflagration. At this moment, inside the armored personnel carrier, for a long time, no one was joking or laughing. The radio did not stop for a moment. For an hour now, the advanced units of the Russian invasion army, about 45 minutes ago, encountered organized and massive resistance from the Ukrainians, accepted the battle, and, since then, hysterically, yelled on the air about heavy losses. Cannon fire and shooting rumbled and covered the consciousness, it seemed, from all sides at once. A conscript soldier, mechanic driver Dima Drozdov, suddenly remembered that he had not signed the contract and that he is not a contract soldier, which means that the command, in general, had no right to send him here. But an army comrade, yesterday's drinking buddy, and crew commander Sergeant Barayev, having heard his claim, only angrily swore at his subordinate and, threatening a tribunal, ordered him to shut up. Dimit's hands were now trembling, and in his soul, somehow unexpectedly sharp, as if a bucket of ice water had been knocked over there, a bad premonition spilled. Behind the next turn, on one side of the street, stretched a coniferous forest plantation, green and impenetrable, despite the winter season. Their BTR-80 moved in a column, the third immediately behind two T-72B3 tanks. "I see two flashes on the left," someone shouted on the radio. It seemed to Dima Drozdov that the voice belonged to his friend Anton Pestryakov, the mechanic driver of one of the tanks in their battalion tactical group, and this meant that an unexpected and deafening bang over the combat vehicle confirmed the terrible guess of the Russian soldier. And already, in the next moment, despite 2 centimeters of armor above the mech driver's head, lava poured from above from the molten metal burned by the cumulative jet. It seems that the sky nevertheless heard Dima and still warmed him. However, in God's anger, was terribly overzealous. The death cry of the mech driver Drozdov, his commander Gurgen Barayev and his closest colleague Ivan Pogorlov, for sure, would not have been forgotten until the end of their days. But, the cumulative jet of 600 degrees Celsius from the Swedish Law anti-tank missile system, in less than half a second after penetrating inside the BTR-80, turned their lungs into ashes, and after another half a second, due to the hellish temperature inside, the entire ammunition load of the Russian armored personnel carrier detonated. So, the motorized rifleman, who jumped out last from the airborne squad, literally a couple of moments before the explosion, was lucky enough to get off with just a shell shock.